Well, what were some of the things, like in your emails, your weekly emails, what were some of the guidelines that you gave to your cinematographers that were like must captures for each episode?
So I think close and wide was one thing. I think sometimes macro photography shares a lot in common with long lens photography in that it tends to have a shallow depth of field, and sometimes it looks like you can't control that depth of field. So it's a bit of the back of the animals in focus, but the eye isn't. And when they move, they go out of focus. And also, it tends to make the backdrop feel very, very flat, because it's compressed on a long lens, essentially. So I think what you don't often see with small animals is getting down low with them and their background or the scenery, the stage they're on, feeling big and epic. So I don't know, the termite mounds or the grass becomes like a forest behind them rather than just a kind of out of focus blur. So getting low, close and wide, I think was a real prerequisite. What else? Thinking really hard about how your characters make an entrance. What is that shot? How do you introduce your character? Thinking what does this animal make you think of, and how's the best way to allow it to enter the stage? Is your entrance is really important. So that was something. There were all sorts of things. I think looking at the landscapes as well, and trying to think, well, what does a blade of grass look like to a small animal, and trying to make those large and life. A lot of time we also spent was, some of the challenges of filming small animals is simply that your front element of your lens is just, there comes a point where it's too big to make that animal seem big. If you're using a normal camera lens, which is probably about, 8 centimeters in diameter, and you're filming an ant that is 1 centimeter in diameter, it's always going to look small in frame. So we spent a lot of time looking at probe lenses and lenses with small front elements that could allow small creatures to dominate the whole frame.
And I definitely, we're going to talk about cameras in just a moment, but you brought something up that made me think. How did you handle establishing the villains or the challenges that these animals come across? Because I think you did such a great job of doing that. And I noticed in the cinematography that you kind of employed some similar techniques that we do in movies, where you kind of shoot the villain or the threat in a certain way to make it feel threatening. I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of how you've created those dynamics between our hero character and the threats that they face.
Yeah, well, a lot of that played on, one of our references. In fact, there's a very obvious reference in the Woodland program to Jurassic Park with the turkeys attacking the acorn ants, for example, where the puddle shakes because the foot of the turkey is meant to be so large on an ant scale. So a lot of it, looking at those references of giant animals like Godzilla, and sometimes it's just about showing a small amount of that animal. Sometimes it's about the reaction of your hero kind of looking back up at it. Or I don't know, in the Islands film, we were trying to show how a kind of raindrop or a little kind of stream of water becomes like a tidal wave. And I think it's to do with getting low from their perspectives, making that old trick of looking. If you look up at your villain, it's going to seem more imposing and dangerous. But then also looking back at your hero and looking down on them, so you're doubling that effect. And then of course there's just all sorts of weird looking, kind of slightly alien looking bugs. So really going to town with the kind of details of these, I don't know whether they're scorpions or velvet worms, the kind of weird alien nature of the baddies.
The cinematography is just stunning. I mean, it really, every frame looks like a photo with the quality that you're getting out of these images and just the detail.